What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we're going to shoot out the Dover DA50 with the EVH 5153 50 watt stealth. Let's do it! Alright, hope you guys are doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name's Kyle. What I do is I take awesome high gain amplifiers, overdrives, guitars, cabinets, speakers, pickups. I record them with a simple SM57 setup and I give you guys the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into E-standard thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes that can barely put two words together, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button on your way out if you like the video and subscribing so you don't miss anything else. Thanks. All right, guys, so today I am putting up the Dover DA50 against the EVH 5153 Stealth. Why, you ask? Because you guys asked me to. Today is actually my last day with the Dover DA50. I've owned this amp for a little over a year and I really enjoy it, but had to move it along to get some new stuff coming in on the channel, so I am actually getting this out the door today to its new owner, and I wanted to get a video filmed for you guys that a lot of people have requested from me before it leaves my possession. So that's what we're doing here. Now the Dover DA50 is a kind of boutique, high gain, high watt inspired amp. It's a little 50 watt amp. It's literally like the same size as the EVH 5153 Stealth, so I figured that they're a good comparison. The Dover technically has one channel but two separate gains. If you want to do like a lead boost or something like that, or a volume boost, you can switch over to gain 2 and master 2, but it has shared EQ across the board between those two gain settings. And then you guys all know all the info about the EVH 5153 Stealth, so I'm not going to go over all that stuff. For that intro clip, I was using my Balaguer Typhon with the Hypernova pickups. They are a modern ceramic high output pickup. We are going into an Engel 4x12 with vintage 30 speakers, SM57 directly on the vintage 30 speaker. And per usual, I had my Deadweld duality boost, boosting the front of both amps, but we're gonna go ahead and compare these things. I'm gonna do both the blue and the red channel against the Dover DA50 real quick and see what kind of tones that we can dial in. All right, guys, both amps have all the EQ settings at noon with the gain at 9 o'clock. We have no boosts on, just a noise gate. So let's see how they compare. All right, so they're really not super far off. The EVH is much fuller, but they have a similar tonality. I would say the EVH has more in the way of lows and low mids overall. So let's go ahead, let's boost the lows, let's boost the mids a little bit, and let's get a little bit more gain to see if we can kind of match the EVH. All right, so the Dover overall is brighter and much thinner sounding. So let's bump that bass. I have the resonance on the back of the EVH at noon, so it's really not pushing the low end or anything. Let's pull a little low end out and let's add a little high from the Dover. So again, I mean, the Dover's just much thinner with the gain this low. Let's go ahead and push it right up to noon because we're not here for the dad rock tones. Let's get that high gain stuff going. Again, much thinner. I've noticed the Dover doesn't really come alive until you really start to push that gain past noon. So let's go ahead and push it to about 2 o'clock. See how it compares with the EVH gain at noon. The Dover is still very, very thin in comparison. It's kind of crazy how much smaller it sounds to the EVH. Let's bump that gain up even more. Let's get some saturation going on this thing. And I'm just going to push that bass all the way because, yeah, needs a little help. There is also a boost function on here, which I've noticed fattens the amp out quite a bit. So we'll kick that on after we do this little comparison real quick. But as it stands, the Dover is much smaller sounding and a little bit brighter than the EVH. Okay, so we added some depth to the Dover. I actually forgot that the depth knob was on the amp, so that helped fill it out a little bit, but as you can tell, still not as fat as the EVH. It's almost like British versus American voicing. I mean, you have the classic full, thick EVH, low mid is pushing. It's got a lot of sub-low frequencies. The Dover is very much in that that high watt type tonality. It's stiff. It's got a very specific distortion characteristic. It reminds me a lot of my VHT stuff, honestly, the way that it sounds. It's got a very similar, not only gain structure, but voicing to it, but it's just a little bit smaller sounding. It's a little narrower. It definitely doesn't have the amount of low end that the EVH has, but overall, it sounds pretty good. The way we had it there, it had quite a bit of saturation. Let's bump that back and let's kick on the boost and see if that'll fill things out and get it up to the EVH's level, I guess, of fullness. Okay, so overall, definitely it's more focused in the upper mids. The EVH is just fatter sounding. It's got more lows, it's got more low mids. It sounds not as clear. The Dover is nice and clear. The EVH is just fuller sounding and a little bit more like guttural in the mids. So I'm gonna bump the mids up, I'm gonna bump the gain up, and let's try that one more time and then we'll kick on a boost. Yeah, the Dover definitely, to me, sounds really good without a boost, whereas the EVH requires a boost. The EVH just has more lower frequencies to clean up. It's not quite as saturated with the way that the gain is set on both amps. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to kick on a boost. We'll kick on a Boss SD1. Yeah, the mids are definitely more forward on the Dover. It just sounds more focused overall. It almost seems like it would cut through a mix a little bit better than the EVH, which is saying quite a bit because the EVH is a great amp for being right where it needs to be in the mix. Let's get a little more gain on the EVH. We'll get a little bit more mids and pull the lows back, see if we can kind of match the Dover. Man, that's tough. The Dover is very similar. It's just the mids are in a slightly different place. It doesn't have as much low mids or low end, and the EVH just is a little bit more guttural, not quite as clear and focused sounding. I definitely prefer the fullness of the EVH, but pairing the two together and dialing them for, you know, mostly lows and low mids and mostly upper mids, it would make a great pair. Okay, so I've kicked on the Electric Eye Mud Killer, and then we will switch the EVH over to the red channel and see how that compares. Again, the mids just a little bit more British on the Dover. The Electric Eye actually suits the Dover much better. It doesn't scoop out as much low end, and it kind of makes them a little bit more comparable. Although I do have the EVH. Let's set the EVH as low as where I would normally play it, which is a little above 6, and the resonance a little bit above noon. Yeah, like that. I mean, we've got the low end on the Dover pushed pretty hard, whereas it's, you know, not really working on the EVH, and the EVH definitely has more of a low end push. So let's go ahead and switch the EVH over to the red channel. Now we definitely have more saturation, more of a low end type push. Or a low mid push, I'm sorry. Let's kind of get those highs dialed back because they're getting a little out of control. And let's get a little more mid. Same thing still applies. It just has more low mids on the EVH, more fullness. It's a little angrier sounding. The upper mids are a little bit more forward on the Dover, and it just kind of has a little bit of that British nasally kind of mid-range, which I think is good. It cuts through a mix really well. It's definitely got more clarity than the EVH, so they both kind of excel in different areas. My preference still goes to the EVH a little bit, but the Dover just has its own thing going on. It's very VHT, but it's got a less of a stiff saturation. With the gain how it's set right now, man, I'm getting a lot of saturation from the amp, and usually I remember this amp in my head being a little bit stiffer, a little bit drier, but today sounds really good. All right, let's turn the boost on the Dover off. Yeah, the Dover just cannot cop the low mids of the EVH. I feel like the EVH covers almost all the same ground as the Dover, but it doesn't quite have the same mid-range, but it's got way more fullness in the lows and low mids, whereas the Dover is just thinner sounding. The mids are focused higher. It doesn't have any of those low mids, but it does have a really nice tightness and clarity to it. Okay guys, let's go to drop C and play a couple riffs, and then we'll call it a day on this shootout. All right guys, I'm gonna turn that boost on the Dover back on because it just seems really lacking without it, in my personal opinion. All right, now it sounds better. Let's do another riff. All right, guys, one more riff and we'll call it a day. The Dover's brighter overall. Let's pull that treble back. Let's get a little bit more mid-range up. It's now, I mean, every time you touch a little dial, it seems like I try to get them closer and they get a little further away. But the EVH, I don't know, man. The EVH just has it going on for me. The Dover's great, don't get me wrong. It's an awesome amp. The string definition is awesome. It's got a really cool voicing, but the EVH is just the full package to me. That's my personal opinion. I like them both. I'm sad to see the Dover go, but it's a pretty easy choice for me to say that the EVH stayed for a reason versus the Dover, so. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for me today on the shootout between the EVH 5153 Stealth 50 watt and the Dover amplification DA50. What did you guys think? What did you hear on your end that I did not hear in the room? What is your experience with the Dover DA50? If you have any at all, have you played it? Have you heard it in person? Let me know all those thoughts down below in the comments and I'll be down there to meet you guys and talk about it a little bit. If you like the video and you want to support what I do here, don't forget to hit the like button on the way out, subscribe so you don't miss anything else, and in the description of this video are all my support links, including my Sweetwater affiliate link. You click that link, buy yourself something nice from the fine folks at Sweetwater, and I get a little kickback. Costs you nothing and it greatly helps my channel move forward. There's also my Patreon if you'd like to support that way, and consider becoming a member of the Belligerent Amateur community. I don't know why I keep pointing down like this, it looks really stupid, but in the description are my Facebook group and Discord server links. Would love to have you guys come along, talk gear, and hang out with the community. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope that you found this video helpful. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time.